Welcome to our latest GOLDINVEST interview, this time from the COVID bunker. We're talking to Dr. Joseph Gabriele today, who sits on the special advisory board of mushroom company Champignon Brands. We want to hear from him about the company's business model, its markets, and its goals. Welcome, Joseph. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Before we start talking about Champignon Brands, though, please give us a bit of a background on yourself.
Sure. My name is Joseph Gabriele. I'm a university professor. I'm trained in molecular pharmacology, genetics, so basically the study of the effects of pharmaceuticals at the gene level, so signaling and so on. I've had quite a remarkable career, lucky career, that I've been able to, I cloned a protein in the brain, and I'm involved with psychiatry, with mental illness, and this particular protein regulated dopamine in the brain. More recently, about 12 years ago, I opened up a company that was a delivery system platform company that would allow for pharmaceuticals and natural products to be brought across the skin. And we've extended that to make platforms of oral and intranasal and sublingual delivery systems. With my experience in this company, we were able to execute and make consumer good products that are now in 6,000 locations in Canada. So that's basically my career.
Okay, up to this point. Now, we at GOLDINVEST have been talking about Champignon Brands for a bit, but as this is our first interview, please give our audience an idea of what the company is about, the business model, the markets you're in.
Yeah, so Champignon Brands is an emerging biotech and pharmaceutical company to further explore the psychedelic space, a very exciting space for mental illness, aging, and addiction. Okay. The company is focused on 3 verticals, including world-class clinics, new novel formulation platforms, and third, novel drug discovery in this psychedelic space, which involves mainly mental illness and addiction and aging.
Okay, very interesting space, as we've seen. Now, why have you joined the Special Advisory Committee of Champignon Brands? What will your role be at the company?
Yeah, so I joined as a special advisory person in the company because I've had a lot of experience in the psychedelic. My doctorate degree involved a lot of these pharmaceuticals, and I know the effect they have on mental illness, especially in depression and addiction. Mm-hmm. So my role is to form a team, which I did, a scientific team that would help explore and develop this psychedelic space within mental illness further. It's a huge problem in the world in psychiatry, and over the last 5 decades, there really hasn't been a lot of advancement in mental illness. And in the last 12 years at Johns Hopkins University, Imperial College in the UK, and Harvard, they've done lots of work with psychedelic medicines like psilocybin, and showing a really, really good response that people didn't find with traditional antidepressants or mood stabilizing drugs. And more importantly, it's so exciting because you don't have to take these drugs every day like a traditional pharma. You would take them under the supervision of a physician, either in a macro dosing or a micro dosing for a short period of time, and the results have been outstanding. So it's timely that we come up with this with the surge of an exponential growth of mental illness around the world and addiction problems and aging populations, that we take a different approach. And for me, this is an exciting time in my career.
Okay, very good to hear. Because if you're excited about it, I'm sure the rest of the people working in the rest of the team is also, and it's always a good sign. Now, Champion is a relatively new company, though, in that the IPO was at the end of February only. But there have been a lot of developments already. Could you please give us a short overview of what was achieved and what, in your opinion, was perhaps the most important deal over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so Champignon Brands is a relatively new company, but they've been very successful because they are both dynamic and a very methodical group. They want to add value to the psychedelic space in this issue of mental illness, aging, and addiction. And they've done things in a really methodical way. And I think that that's very important when you're doing scientific research, to validate what you're doing. It's just not a company that, is selling a bunch of products and not having any backing from the scientific community, which I think is quite important today and should have been in the past. They've done two main acquisitions, which I think are very important, and that's the acquisition of Novo Formulations, which, for me, what's really important is how you deliver the medications in a more targeted, specific manner, that you're going to get the best outcomes and the less side effects. So Novo Formulation, has GMP facilities. They have preclinical abilities, so they will test in animals like a typical pharmaceutical company, and then extend over to clinical trials, which we have all the clinicians. We have multiple clinicians that are involved in clinician researchers that are involved in this space, because especially in the Department of Psychiatry where I work, they're very excited because really they haven't had any kind of advancement over the last 3 decades. The second one was the acquisition of Facility, which was basically out of the University of Miami, very well-known university for central nervous system diseases. And with the leader there at University of Miami is Dr. Michael Hoffer, is looking at, he's an ENT surgeon, or ear, nose, throat surgeon, that's been involved in post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, both by concussion and by psychological trauma. And he's looking at psychedelic medications to help reset the brain. It's really exciting times for Champignon Brand to be involved with this particular group. And there's a vast amount of scientists there, basic scientists, translational scientists, and clinicians like Dr. Hoffer. So I think that was a very, very important acquisition by Champignon. And they have other acquisitions on the horizon that will basically bolt in clinics that could actually do the work.
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. What's up next, let's say, for the remainder of this year?
Yeah, so the goal at Champignon is to, we've solidified the scientific team, both the basic scientists, the translational scientists, and the clinicians. We now have many clinics involved with us involving post-traumatic stress disorder, concussion, but also first responders like police and so on that have psychological trauma due to what they see. We're working with Dr. William Malloy out of the University of Cork, Ireland, which is probably the foremost expert in the field of dementia. He's written 22 books, and he finds this fascinating because, you know, there could be, you know, with these type of medications, an awakening in certain parts of the brain, because we only use 4 to 5% of our brain. And with these psychedelic drugs, they've proven now with imaging studies that actually, you know, there's like 100-fold more interconnections of the neurons of the brain. So this is an exciting field. We're working with psychiatrists specializing in refractory depression at the University of Toronto. At McMaster University, we have a specialist that works with anxiety and OCD. Yeah, it's just like, you know, we're so excited because all these groups of physicians, many of them are older physicians, you know, they just want to try to help out and help out with this issue of mental illness, which stems with many verticals like addiction problems, alcohol, drug addiction, obesity, eating disorders, and so on. Many people around the world have issues of anxiety and ADHD and OCD, and I don't know if that's because of the stress of the environment and in the aging population. Many countries, including Canada, the United States, Europe, Japan, we have a real, you know, exponential growth of aging people, and we need to figure out how to resolve that problem or retard the amount of dementia that's happening, because it's costing the healthcare industry billions of dollars.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Very interesting fields, yeah, and I see there's a lot of work in front of you. Well, we've been talking, there wasn't so much a goal for 2020. I think will be working on these, in all of these fields for a longer time. But yes. Let's say, how would you think Champion would look in, let's say, 5-10 years? Well, what's the ultimate goal?
Yeah, so the short-term goal is by the fourth quarter of this year, we will be a real company with intellectual property. We will have clinics generating revenues, which is very important, and we will have a very science-directed vision. As you said, this is going to take time to actually get this company to a worldwide level, but we feel that Champignon has all the parts of the puzzle that could actually accomplish this company to be the largest and set our sides next to none. We have a large value gap with our peers, other companies, because they are looking at parts of the puzzle, but we're taking the approach of all the pieces of the puzzle and putting them together. And we think that it needs to be integrated that way in order for the company to be successful and be a revenue generating company. I mean, in the end, we want to help people, but it's also a company that has to provide for the shareholders. So I think you're going to see some exciting news on Champignon in the short term, but you're going to continually see advancement with the company over the next 5 years. We want to be the leader in this field.
Okay, very good. Thank you. It would certainly be interesting to follow that. Now, you partially answered my next question, because Corona notwithstanding, Champignon Brands stock has held up pretty well. over the last couple of weeks. So it's when I take your answer and the goals you formulated, should be still time for investors to take a closer look at Champignon.
Absolutely. I think this is just the beginning for Champignon. I'm not a stock person. I'm a scientist. However, why I think this company is going to do very well is because it's laser focused in those 3 pillar areas that are integrated, and you're going to see one will hinge on the other to get it where it wants to go. I think there's a huge opportunity here because these are disorders and diseases that are affecting the majority of the populations, and there needs to be more advancement in this field because I believe sincerely that there was a stigmatism when it comes to mental illness, and it's coming out now that it's okay, but we need to treat it properly. And you treat with pharmaceuticals, but you can also, what Champignon is all about is to also treat the patient after they take the pharmaceutical, like psychotherapy, cognitive therapy, which I think has been lost in translation in the last 3 decades with the advancement of pharmaceuticals and so on. Like, here, take these drugs, and we'll see you in a year. Well, it doesn't work that way. There's an integrative approach that you may take this psychedelic pharmaceuticals, but you need a protocol following it to follow up with those patients so they don't relapse back into that situation. So I think that it's just the beginning for Champignon in this field. And I think I've been approached by other companies, but this is the company that I feel is very focused on delivering and executing on the plan.
Okay, thank you very much. That sounds like a very good closing remark. And we'll be sure to follow up when there's new developments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.